Misogyny is a specific type of unreasonable hatred or disrespect for women in a world dominated by males. I refer to a society as a man's world when I say that men have greater rights and benefits than women. The United States is a patriarchal society, or a man's world, as it is frequently known. Several examples of proof: only 23.7% of the 535 members of the U.S. Congress in 2019, 127 seats, were occupied by women. No woman has ever been elected President of the United States by the people. Although some women have a legal right to equal treatment from their employers, statistics nonetheless reveal that men and women earn significantly different amounts of money. According to census data, in 2018, a full-timing maid woman made around 80 cents for every dollar a full-time working man made. Why on earth $1 million like women in a society when it is a man's world is the $1 million question. The two main types of misogyny are hate-based and contempt-based. What I refer to as the ideal of femininity is the foundation of nasty misogynists. The dominant feminine ideal of today shows the ideal woman as young, attractive, lovely, mild-mannered, maternal, sympathetic, non-promiscuous, modest in ambition, and ladylike in demeanor. Women should also be domestic and subordinate in some populations in order to uphold the norms at the time. Women whose actions or appearance stray too far from the ideal of femininity are the targets of hateful misogynists. Disrespectful misogynists believe that women's options are constrained by theology. Because of our intrinsic femininity, they view women as being inferior. They consider such nature to be unclean. But no matter how hard we try, the dirt won't come off. Because of the fundamental connection between the female body and biological functions like sexual activity, menstruation, pregnancy, and delivery, it is ingrained in our cultural past that the female body lacks purity and elegance. From the perspective of the misogynist who fears female dirt, our womanhood is the embodiment of female filth. He considers us to be inferior because of the innate feminine dirt in us. Because of our unbreakable bond with physical objects, manipulation, irrationality, and other impure features, humans are by nature inferior beings. This raises the question, why on earth would males dislike women in a society when it is a man's world? The simple answer is that sexism, when pervasive, may be used in patriarchal culture as a tool to impede women's advancement or boost the authority and advantages of men. Male sexism is thus reasonable in the prudential meaning of sensible, despite being morally repugnant and socially unjustifiable. However, this presents an even more difficult query: why in the world would women support male misogynists in a world dominated by men? Even in the prudential definition of the word, this is not reasonable. Many women are misogynists as well, even though males often take the lead in large-scale sexist initiatives. They employ comparable, and occasionally worse, hostile techniques because they are fervent converts to the same ideology as their male counterparts. Evidence even reveals that women use sexist rhetoric on Twitter more frequently than males. Female misogynists, like their male counterparts, are motivated by either hatred for women who deviate from the feminine ideal or scorn for women in general due to their purported inherently unclean characteristics, such as their link with body fluids or their cunning. The four subgroups of female misogynists that are most prevalent in America today are the Puritan, the self-hater, the self-contemner, and the she-devil. The Puritan views the ideal woman as being thin, trim, youthful, attractive, pretty, alluring, mild-mannered, nurturing, compassionate, non-promiscuous, not too ambitious, ladylike in manners and presentation, and occasionally also as domestic and subservient to men, just like the hateful male misogynist. She views herself as being pretty darn near perfect since she embodies the feminine traits that, in her opinion, are most crucial. The Puritan is a misogynist because she despises women who deliberately remove themselves from conventional femininity and established gender standards, such as feminists, career women, and working mothers, rather than because she supports the feminine ideal. These women are the ones she targets because, in her eyes, they are terrible women who willfully or carelessly violate the natural order of things. Even though they see themselves as home goddesses, Puritans frequently act as public provocateurs who have made it their life's work to correct their wayward sisters. Some of them are famous people who have their own glittering YouTube channels, flashy podcasts, hot mommy blogs, or who are the stars of reality television shows. The others usually actively participate in obstinate anti-feminist organizations like Women Against Feminism or Women for Christian Domestic Discipline, aka wife spanking. A prominent example of a Puritan female misogynist is a reality television star and obedient housewife Michelle Duggar. She is a proponent of total feminine surrender. She offers to advise on how wives might make their husbands happy in a blog post for newlyweds. And so be accessible, and not only available but be happily available for him. Michelle Duggar's marriage advice for newlyweds is to smile and be willing to respond. Yes, honey, I am here for you, no matter what, even if you may be fatigued and large pregnant and you may not feel like he feels. Michelle's blog, October 8, 2015. The good subservient girl sexism of the Duggar family is not as uncommon as one might imagine. Before the 2016 presidential election, some women used the hashtag #repealed19th to call for the removal of women's voting rights after it was demonstrated that if only males participated in the election, Trump would win. The second kind of woman-on-woman hater, the misogynistic self-hater, is likewise inclined to dislike women who deliberately stray from the feminine ideal and conventional gender standards. Such as women who are competitive, domineering, easily irritated, or who act in a way that isn't ladylike. She reveres societally accepted gender roles and seizes any chance to extol their goodness. Men should be alpha dominant, while women should be submissive. But in contrast to the Puritan, the self-hater hates herself for lacking the desire to become more feminine and sees herself as one of the misbehaving women. Self-haters frequently hide their loathing of themselves as well as, on occasion, their hatred of other women who consciously reject the feminine ideal. Female misogynists, like their male counterparts, are motivated by either hatred for women who deviate from the feminine ideal or scorn for women in general. Due to their purported inherently unclean characteristics, such as their link with body fluids or their cunning. The Puritan, the self-hater, the self-contemner, and the she-devil are the four main types of female misogynists in America today. This is the case, at least in part, for Suzanne Vinker, author of The Alpha Female's Guide to Men and Marriage, How Love Works, as she considers her former behavior as an alpha wife. Women have resembled males too much, writer Vinker. They compete too much. Overly masculine, overly alpha. She says that modern women's desire for dominance and control is the reason they cannot find enduring love. She contends that gentle women, as opposed to harsh ones, are more likely to discover enduring love. They must discover their feminine side. She talks about how she used to hate having to be feminine around her spouse. She says that her alpha ways were rubbing up against his alpha nature. There was too much conflict since we were like two bulls hanging around in the same enclosure. Vinker briefly states that she had little interest in her spouse adopting a more feminine role while explaining why she chose to embrace her femininity. This may appear to be a logical justification for changing at first. However, if we look a bit closer, Vinker's comment reflects a more dismal aspect of her mind. She implied that she wanted her husband to be the dominant figure, the alpha, when she said that she had zero interest in her spouse assuming a more feminine position. Even as she accepted her alpha male tendencies in her marriage, she clung to this urge. However, this proves that her justification for altering her behavior wasn't entirely reasonable. She had to make a change due to cognitive dissonance since she wanted to be the alpha leader of her spouse. There must be a sacrifice. According to Vinker, her desire for both her and her husband to be the alpha leader caused her a lot of internal struggles. She had to suppress one of her discordant wants to alleviate her pain. However, our culture does not show much pity for weak men who submit to strong women. It seems to sense that Vinker's desire to dominate her marriage led to self-hatred. She overcame her desire for the alpha position, which helped her overcome her self-hatred. She then started publishing books to support her decision. One of the two scornful female misogynists, the misogynistic self-contemner, has internalized the idea that women are trash. She has developed a general attitude of disdain for every one of her filthy kind as a result, including herself. She believes that males are superior to women. According to her, women are subordinate to males because of their inherent flaws, such as their promiscuity, cunning, dishonesty, irrationality, incapacity, or stupidity. She frequently denies the self-loathing that motivates her judgmental behavior toward other women. I've heard some individuals argue that the concept of self-contempt is illogical. If you dislike me, you treat me like I'm less than you and that makes you look down on me. However, the argument goes that just as you cannot be taller than yourself, you also cannot be better than yourself. Although indeed, you cannot physically be shorter than or inferior to yourself, we may deduce that the argument against self-contempt must be flawed because when we place the blame for anything, we simultaneously occupy the judgmental high chair and gaze down on the object of our disdain. However, thinking well of oneself while also holding a condescending attitude toward yourself is hardly less inconsistent. The truth is that we are to blame, and we do. All the time. Self-centered judgmental attitudes are established in our culture on a fundamental level. Sayings like "you only have yourself to blame," Don't be so harsh on yourself, and don't create a victim out of yourself. Perfectly capture this. By assuming several roles that represent various facets of ourselves, we are able conselves. We may and frequently do play both the judge and the defendant. This kind of role-playing could be familiar to you if you talk to yourself. Memory prompt: my God, you're a disgusting piece of garbage. A very pitiful loser. You need to get your SHT together. When we judge ourselves, our conscience assumes the role of an uncaring, cynical judge, and the part of us that feels horrible, that feels bad, assumes the position of the accused. Reason and emotion have different roles to play. Simply said, self-loathing is nothing more than self-contempt. It takes shape when your emotions play the condemned, who is made to feel deplorable and disgusting, and your conscience plays the condemner. Adolf Hitler supposedly battled self-disgust due to the guilt he experienced about his Jewish ancestry. The anti-feminist she-devil, the second type of disdainful female misogynist, believes she is superior to other women and on par with or even better than the leading alpha males in her society. She believes that other women are inferior to males because of their inherently dirty characteristics, such as their affiliation with body fluids or their incapacity, but she was incredibly spared from those vices at birth. The she-devil may exhibit traits associated with femininity, such as attractiveness and sexiness. However, she believes that she embodies stereotypically masculine traits like knowledge, fortitude, and reason, and at times her behavior can be more macho than that of her male coworkers, classmates, or friends. If it turns out that she can outdrink them all, don't be shocked. She would sooner throw a woman off the job ladder or out of school than assist her to advance, since she is always in rivalry with other women. But she expertly avoids being caught and punished for her inappropriate actions. Your opponent is watching you from her professional highchair as you wait for the elevator with your box of personal belongings and your dying office plant, her gleeful laughing filling the room. Female sexism is, in Perry's opinion, far more pervasive now than it was on Mother's Day. Modern culture is rife with male misogyny. However, female sexism may be much more harmful, as Perry notes. Although that did happen to me once, women may not punch you in the face, but if you get in their way or become more famous before them, you should be on the lookout. Before you can blink, they could have adopted your children, gotten you fired, and left you with your spouse. When there are so few women in positions of authority, many of them believe they must act like tigresses, using every tool at their disposal to defend their position from other sisters, according to Perry. The she-devil overcomes the drawbacks of being a woman in a world run by men by thinking like a man and elevating herself beyond female inadequacy. There you have it, then. Misogyny is a tool in the hands of men and she-devils to carve a path for themselves. It seems sensible to use this tool in a prudential sense. In this light, logic is not anything to be proud of. It has a narcissistic odor. Therefore, let's hold off on condemning female misogynists too quickly. They are only prisoners in the world of men, where winning only occurs when you prioritize your self-interests.